Welcome to Don't Chuck It Up. I'm Chuck, a college counselor helping families and educators navigate the college search and the application process with clarity and confidence. And today, we are taking a step back in time to see how is one of my former students doing. So I am excited to have Elijah Greene, one of my former students from a few years ago, join me on the show today. Elijah, welcome to the Don't Chuck It Up show.
Hey, thank you. As Chuck said, I'm Elijah Greene. I graduated a couple years ago from high school. I'm currently at Embry-Riddle in Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm a senior. I graduate in May here. I have a degree, or I'm getting my degree in Aeronautical Science with a minor in Meteorology and airline operations. So it's been fun.
And Aeronautical Science, isn't that one of those piloting type things as well? Aren't you doing a little of that piloting down there at Embry-Riddle?
Yep. It's a pilot specialized degree. So we start out, getting our private pilot's license all the way through commercial. And the goal a lot of the times is, flying professionally. So, airlines, charter, just working in the aviation industry. So my goal is airlines in the relatively soon future. So yeah, we'll see.
You're in Florida, but you're originally from literally down the road from where I live in northeastern Wisconsin in the Fox Valley area. So you and I met several years ago because you and your twin brother were, of course, starting this whole college search experience, and you definitely knew what you wanted to do, and you actually had kind of a different path and a different plan. So let's go back to when you were a high school junior. What was life like for you when you were a high school junior?
Yeah. So like I said, I've always known what I wanted to do. Luckily, it's always been pilot for me, more specifically airline pilot's kind of been a dream of mine. So I didn't have as much of a worry in that aspect of things. But signing up for colleges, kind of in that transition between high school and college, I was just like, any other, high schooler, junior year, you're having fun, you're in school and your life is school. And then came the college search. So I knew what I wanted to do. So that was somewhat easy for me. But then, I was thinking about things that I wanted to, incorporate within my college journey and size of the school and the type of school it was and everything like that. And so, yeah, I met up with Chuck and I just went through everything, all the, ins and outs of everything. And, yeah, just ended up choosing Embry-Riddle because it was specialized in everything airplanes. And yeah.
Well, and I was going to say, so when I met you, you were obviously dead set on being a pilot and doing all the aeronautical type stuff. But you had your heart set on a very different college in a very different place.
I did.
You were dreaming of going to college in North Dakota.
Yeah.
And I think partially because you didn't know that some of the other schools existed, and you had interacted with the University of North Dakota several times, but I was kind of, I have nothing against University of North Dakota. I think it's a great university, but I was like, do you want to go to college and land planes on ice on a regular basis? And I think the other thing that I want my listeners to know about you is high school was not super easy for you. I think there's this whole thing of people that work with counselors like me, are really strong academically and they, are shooting for Harvard and Yale and all these crazy places. And you really had a challenge in high school. So talk to me, what was academics like for you in high school?
Yeah. So in high school, like you said, I've never really been kind of academic oriented. And I think that's really common throughout people back then, my age. And, you just kind of go to school, you get the bare minimum and you just, pass your classes. And for reference, I graduated with, I think a 3.16 or something like that. And I think the main issue through high school, it goes by really fast. And I think you guys are, a lot of viewers are starting to see that going into their, college transition. And it really does. It goes by in the blink of an eye. And so I was my freshman year, my sophomore year of high school. I was like, oh yeah, I got time, I can kind of slack off just a little bit. Still put in some effort, but if I got some kind of a bad grade, it wasn't the end of the world. I always kind of had that own, motivation to do well in high school because you have to do well somewhat well in high school to become, what I wanted to do. Um, and so yeah, it was, ended up catching up to me a little bit, and I didn't do the best that I really could. I tried my best a lot,
Mhm.
especially towards the end, my junior and senior year. Um, and actually, my senior year, I ended up getting all A's, but that's
Mhm.
besides the point. But yeah, I was happy about that. But yeah, in general, I just never, academics when it comes to, the general math, science, all that type of stuff has never really been my thing. And then going back to relate to what you were saying is as I was visiting colleges, um, I was really, really excited, and that further even motivated me to do well where I am already, or where I was. So I ended up, like you said, visiting North Dakota. I loved it, and my dad liked it because he said it would keep me out of trouble, because there's probably not much there. It's pretty flat if anyone goes to visit out there, but
Facts.
um, yeah. So then I really, really liked the school. And so I kind of had like you said, I had my heart set on that. And it kind of relates over to now, like, okay, like things didn't really go as planned. And it's just like important, like, especially throughout that college, through college connectors, kind of keeping an open mind. And so, you know, and since it was my first school that I visited, I didn't see everything else that was out there. And
Yes.
so I go out and I see everything else out there, and I saw Embry-Riddle. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I got some opportunities here. So, yeah. And
Yeah.
so that further motivated me to just do well.
Right. And so, full disclosure for those who are joining us and listening in, Elijah came to me with below a 3.0 GPA in high school. Like, and as what I quickly figured out about you, it's not that you were not smart. It's just that you did not see the point of high school classes. You were just like, why am I learning all this junk? Why am I doing these stupid assignments that, really don't mean anything? Like, I clearly am not interested in learning some of this material. And the reason why I knew that is that you had a hardcore job as a junior in high school. You were working your butt off at a factory after school many of the days, and you were doing pilot school while you were also in high school. So this told me that it wasn't a lack of drive or determination. It's just you weren't interested in sitting in a classroom and listening to a teacher go blah, 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 blah about stuff that you were not interested in. I'm like, yeah, you're like, I can look all this up online. I don't need to memorize this. Why am I
Yeah.
doing this in high school? And I think what a lot of students and parents need to think about is that a lot of students who are struggling in high school, it's not because they're not smart, it's because you needed to see there's a college out there, or there were several, because you got admitted to a few places. There's colleges out there that fit what you want to do and what you are interested in doing. And that's why I got excited and why I think you really kicked butt your senior year. Partially because I told you, I was like, you need to keep your grades up if you want to actually go to one of these places. Uh, but two, I think you saw the light at the end of the tunnel. I think you saw these colleges that were super cool, super focused on aviation and all the stuff that's going with that, some of them in a much warmer climate. And you were like, hey, I have an opportunity here, and high school is now more in the rearview mirror. You're like, oh, screw this thing. This is my goal now. I got to look forward to the future. So I think that's what changed. As I said, I don't think you weren't smart as a freshman and sophomore. I think you just were like, why am I doing this BS? Like, it's boring.
Yeah. And a lot of the time too, like throughout high school, I was just kind of going through the motions,
Yeah.
and all that type of stuff. And, that motivation and that determination is what kept that fire for me to keep going. And I did work a lot. Especially throughout my junior, senior year, I was an apprentice, a machinist apprentice, and, with the school and the apprentice and work and flying, it was a lot. But, it was good because I always stayed busy and I was always motivated to do well because of, where I wanted to be. And I was also really excited to get through that because now I'm doing things that I like and that interest me. And of course, it's really important. And, going into college is, I'm lucky I realized that early. Going into college, like, there's a lot of classes that you don't want to do. Still, they don't go away. Your
Yep.
gen eds, your math and your science and all that, but you have to do it. So might as well just get out of the way, right? So kind of came into college with the mindset to just do well with those classes. I could put them behind me.
Well, and I think you also really put yourself into the application process. One of the things that I was super impressed by is that you went to go visit a lot of these places to see what they were like in person. And then you wrote probably one of the best dang college essays I have ever read in my entire life. Like, you put your entire heart and soul into that essay of like, yep, I'm not academically great. This is my passion. This is what I want to do. I love flying, and this is why I love flying. And if you basically were like, if you admit me to your college, I'm going to put my nose to the grindstone and get her done and be one of the best students. And it really was a great essay. I barely had to edit it. I was like, okay, yep. And we even got some comments back from some of the admissions counselors that even said, hey, Elijah, that was a really great essay. And I was just like, yeah, he wrote it. I did not, nope, that was not me. That was all you. Because you showed that you had passion for this subject. And
Mhm.
you were doing it in high school and you were continuing that on to college. I am curious as to, do you remember why you ultimately picked Embry-Riddle? Because you, as I said, you got admitted to several places. So it was not like I only got admitted to Embry-Riddle, so I have to go there. You got admitted to most of the colleges you applied to.
Yeah. So that letter came from like obviously complete passion and everything. Um, and Embry-Riddle. So I want to come back to this. Like visiting colleges, it's a lot. It definitely is. But we made a big trip out of it. We came down to Florida, and it was, I think it's Florida's, other than North Dakota, Florida's the other place that we went. And I think it's really important that you go visit the campuses, because the vibe that at those campuses is everything. And so you can see pictures, you can see as many pictures as you want, and you can hear everything else. But until you get the sights, the sounds, the feels, seeing everywhere else, that has to do with the campus, that's where you really get the full immersion.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing what you had the opportunity to do and where you had the opportunity to be was really important for me. So Embry-Riddle, reason I chose it was because a lot of its reputation. So anywhere in the business that I'm going into, you say you're a Riddle grad, they just know, what that is, and they know how that training is, and they know that it's a lot of time like top notch, along with UND and all those other schools. Um, so when it comes to ending up here, okay, it's warm, right? That's a big one. And the big thing that I always said too was when I lived on campus, it was really nice because the airport was right on the actual university.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be connected. So I could walk out of my dorm and go to my flight block, which was really, really convenient. Um, or like, in between classes or after class. And
Yep.
so that was a big one for me. And then after seeing all that, I was like, just basically in the mindset of I'm not taking no for an answer. And I was in the middle of applications, and I actually just I applied to both. There's Prescott and Daytona campuses,
Yep.
and I actually initially did not get into the Daytona campus. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I initially didn't get into the Daytona campus, and here comes that burning fire and the passion. I'm not going to take no for an answer. I want to be here, and I'm going to prove that I want to be here. And so I asked him what my options were, and she said, okay, yeah, you can go into a different major and then transfer into AS, Aeronautical Science. AS
Right.
is we usually know it down here, but you transfer into AS and then go from there, or you can do Prescott. I'm like, I'm not doing any of that. So she told me Summer B, which summer program. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And then you just kind of get grandfathered into the fall semester. And that was just kind of my thing was I wasn't taking no for an answer. And I ended up going for Summer B. So it worked out. But yeah, it was just where my heart was.
Well,
So
and it's one of the things that I love about the Embry-Riddle campus and other colleges that offer that summer option. So the summer option really allows for students like you who were clearly on an upward grade trend, like you were doing much better, you were, really getting your stuff done, but you weren't quite where they wanted to see you when you started in the fall. So
yeah,
many colleges will offer this summer option where you were able to go early. You took how many classes that summer? I can't remember.
like three, maybe something
Yeah,
like that.
I was gonna
Three.
say it was either 2 or 3, but it basically they said, "Okay, we're gonna have you come early." They were taking a chance on you. They said,
Mhm.
"We're gonna have you come early. If you kick butt in these summer classes, we'll enroll you as a full student and you'll be a normal student by the fall. So, which also meant that you had the shortest summer ever. Uh, you literally
Yeah.
graduated high school, got all your stuff put together, and you're like, all right, I'm moving to Florida. We got to go to
Yeah.
Embry-Riddle. Time to go to college. It's like, whoa, that was
Graduated
fast.
May 31st. May
Yeah.
31st, I graduated, turned 18 on the 13th, and June 23rd, I was out of there. So I didn't get to experience any grad parties, any, the senior summer or at this after senior year summer, which I mean, I was okay with because I was so excited to come down here and get started.
Right.
And down here is like a summer camp. So like it was awesome. Got to
So,
fly and
yeah, I mean, well,
yeah.
that was the thing is you got it. You were in a program that they were going to allow you to start flying really from the get go, and that's kudos to you for really grinding during high school and getting all the pilot stuff done during high school, so that you didn't. Because some students want to be a pilot, but they don't do that stuff during high school. So then when they get to college, they're doing the really early start stuff. You were already a couple years, several years ahead of the pilot process, so you could jump in and start flying right away as a new college student. So that
Right.
I think
And it was
kudos to you.
nice. Yeah. And it was nice too. To any of the non-pilots, private pilot is the first kind of the basis of where you
Yep.
start. And I got that before, like he was saying, before I came there. And the private pilot program here in a lot of colleges is pretty, because you're taking someone from zero to hero,
Yep.
basically. And so it was really nice for me to like you said, get right in, jump right in. I was flying within probably, well, I flew my first day when I was down there. Actually, I observed somebody, but within the first week I was flying, and yeah, it was nice, and it gave me a really big jump start, and I got transfer credits because I completed the private pilot outside, so it worked out.
Yeah. And I think that also is why they were really impressed that you had done so much in high school to get yourself to that point, that they're like, all right, he's definitely grinding. He's definitely got the goals. So what was it like? Do you remember back to your first year in college? What was that experience like? You're in a new place, new people. You had no one at Embry-Riddle that you had known. Like, it's not like you went to a college with a bunch of your buddies. Like, you were going to a college, like, I don't think you knew anyone there. So what was that like as a new student going off to college in a very different part of the country?
Yeah. I think to start the basis, this college that I'm at, Embry-Riddle, is a very aerospace, all airplane or anything in the in space, even it focused college. So in general, a lot of people, everyone there, almost everyone there has that in common. They all are, airplane enthusiasts. Even if you're not an AS student, you might have your pilot's license and just stuff like that. So that was a nice basis to have. But starting summer B, it gave me the chance. Our entire floor, I almost got to know my entire floor right away. And the entire floor was like the summer B people, where they house
Mm-hmm.
the summer B people. Um, and I met actually my current roommates uh, through right in the dorm there. And so I'm still best friends with them all to this day. And so we met and got to know each other, had a lot of fun over the summer. I wasn't too scared of not, making friends and whatever, because I was just confident that, it would naturally just work out.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's the thing too, is like a lot of people, it can be intimidating going across the country, I'm 1,300 miles from home. And, once I built that, kind of basis, made some friends, and I've been really good friends with pretty much everyone since. And some things change, your freshman year now, but but when it came into the fall semester, when everyone came rushing into the campus and everything was buzzing again, it was kind of nice for me because I already had excuse me, I already had basis of friends. I just started making more friends, and there was more people that I could relate to, and all this and all that. But it was definitely the hardest part for me wasn't like homesickness, but it was change. There was so many things that changed. And the person that I was back in high school is so much different than the person that I was, that I am.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
yeah. And I think that, a lot of that is the change that happens, different people, I'm still friends with everyone back at home too, but, different people, different place, different, it was actually really, really hard on me. And that's a pretty common thing. Freshman year college is always probably one of the most, or difficult years of your college career for a lot of people, just because of that. It's not the same as what you've been used to. And so that was the biggest thing for me. And the nice part was when I went home, everything was the same. Nothing changed. And so I
Mostly, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's always construction and this and that. And every time I go, there's something new. But yeah, for the most part, it was nice to see because my first time coming back from college, it was just like, wow, everything's still here. I
Hmm.
still got the dogs. All my friends are still around. Like it's awesome. But yeah, towards the end of freshman year, it was at that point. By that point, I was pretty in the swing of things. Um, and it worked out really good. I ended up joining a fraternity, made a lot of friends there. I have a lot of friends there. Um, and yeah, so did a lot of flying my freshman year. Ended up earning my instrument and commercial all in that one span of that time there. And it was good. Yeah. Just a
Yeah.
lot of change.
Absolutely, and I really appreciate that you acknowledge that you really had to kind of change from your high school self and who you were as a high school student to what you were going to become and who you are now as a college student. And I really talk about that with parents, like you're moving from a state of dependence on your parents and on your local community to a state of independence where you get to be who Elijah is going to be from here on forward. So you kind of have to go through a metamorphosis in a way and like, all right, I'm no longer this kid from northeastern Wisconsin on the daily. Like, now you're trying to be a Florida boy and really enjoy Florida life. And you get to make the decisions as to what you're doing every day. What are you eating? Are you going to go work out? Are you going to be involved? Are you joining a fraternity? Whatever that may be. And you've got to make all those decisions for yourself. Some of them are awesome decisions, and you really have excelled academically quite well in college. And I'm sure there were some poor decisions that you've made along the college way, but we don't have to talk about that live on a podcast. So tell me, you joined the fraternity. What else did you get involved in? Because I know your curriculum is really involved. So I'm wondering, how much time did you have to do other stuff besides all the classes and the fraternity stuff?
Yeah. So once I got used to classes, and that's one of the other things that changed too, is that your study habits, you know, I was able to kind of adapt to that pretty quickly, get things done. I started out procrastinating a decent amount, but I'm just like, okay, I just gotta get it done, get it out of the way. But um, it was really busy. The first year it was the fraternity, a full 19 credits, and flying, which all three of those it was pretty tough to balance.
Yep. Yep.
But we made it happen. But other than that, a lot of times I just, I am involved with ALPA, which is something on campus, Airline Pilots Association. And I kind of stay up to date with that as well. I'm starting to do a lot of interview prep, and some volunteer work through the fraternity. Whenever I get an opportunity to do stuff like that, really helps. I'm involved. It's not really a campus thing, but it's a program called um, uh, Pilots and Paws. So we basically relocate dogs and to their new homes and
Yeah.
type of stuff. And I just do a lot of flying with my friends. A lot of that. But I think in general, the fraternity kind of keeps me really connected
Yeah.
throughout a lot of that. Uh, yeah, and then any like speakers that come, I like to go to those as well, just to kind of get another, you know, s- uh, a perspective from somebody who's involved within the career that I'm going to be into. And so that's really good for me to, you know,
Yeah, I was gonna say
really-
your Instagram is full of flying, so I definitely know that you're flying. I knew that for sure, and I was like, "What else are you doing?" I know you're flying a lot, but you got to be doing something else besides flying. What do you think has been? I'm curious. Two things. What has been your hardest class that you were in high school, and what has been your absolute favorite class that you would definitely take again?
in high school.
No, I mean in college. Sorry, I said high
Oh,
school. I
in
meant college.
college.
No, no, no. We're not
No
going back
worries.
to high school. We're in college. So what has been your hardest college class, and then what has been your most favorite college class that you would definitely take again?
Um, I would say probably one of my hardest was um physics. I remember physics in general, just being really tough. And I was just did my best, and I was happy to finally have it done. But the physics in the physics lab, and it was to the point where um a lot of the time it just gets so difficult, it's almost hard not to tune it out.
Hmm.
Um, and at that point, it's like, okay, when we were doing like the physics labs, it was almost like to the point where it's like it's hard to even want like do well when you can't even grasp on to why you're doing this. You
Yeah,
can't even
yeah.
grasp what's going on here, you know. But we made it through, and just worked with my team and did as well as I could. And I actually didn't end up doing too bad, but yeah. And then I would say my favorite class that I've ever taken. That's a tough one. Um, there's a lot of really good class. I think my favorite was last semester, AS 435. It's a basically you're doing flight simulator, and the whole goal of the class is to learn. They take a 737, which is a airline, one of the airliners up there, and
Yep.
the box that you program everything in. So and all the navigation, the autopilot, learning about that stuff. It was pretty cool. Um, and at the end of the course, you do an evaluation, or what we call a check ride in the aviation world of things. And that was basically like your final. And so you basically would do a full flight, and then the instructor would act like their air traffic control, and then tell you what to do, and you plug it in and use the autopilot. And it was a really fun class, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
That sounds
yeah,
like you would pick something like that. Knowing who you are, that sounds like the class that I would expect you to pick. I wasn't expecting you to say, English literature. Like I was figuring you were gonna pick something where you get to use the simulators and play with all the toys, and too bad that you
yeah,
don't have an actual 737 that you could fly around. But the simulator is close enough.
yeah. And it was hard. It's kind of hard for me to pick my favorite one. I just picked that one because it was probably just because the simulator is always fun to do. But
Right.
in general, all my upper level, core classes have all been actually really, you know, I've enjoyed them all. There's not a class that I can think of that I haven't really enjoyed, and it's super cool learning all the different things like, flight safety, crew resource management, all things that have to do with the, industry, performance, learning about like performance calculations, hand doing them, navigation, how to manually do a flight plan. Right now, I'm taking a class where a flight dispatcher class where you learn what dispatchers do behind the scenes to be able to dispatch an airline flight out, and it's just really fascinating. Um, and it's all from people who have gone through the industry and
Yep.
have literally practical experience. Now I got professors who fly flew fighter jets, and then were check airmen in the airlines and captains, and they just give you it's entertaining, and it goes from a class that you just have to be there for to something you actually like don't mind and like want to be there for. Um,
Yeah, and I
so
think
that's
I think it's one of the reasons why I guess I was a little surprised when both you and your mother said that you were basically over enrolling a lot of your semesters. You were taking more credits than what they recommend. And I was like, okay, you went from academic shaky early high school to now you're over enrolling, taking credits, and you've been on the honor roll a bit while you've been in college too. So like because you've been overloading and taking more credits, you're graduating early, right?
yeah, yeah. I graduate in May. Yeah.
How early is that? Like are you a whole year early?
Yeah, whole year early. Yep. So initially I was class of 27, and then dropped it down to May 26th. So I got a couple months to go yet. And since it could have been like this past December, or even 2 years back in May, or yeah, back in May, but it was like, I, I wanted to stay, an extra, because why would I rush, that much? So now it's just this semester, it's kind of a nice, easy going. you know, 12 credits and
12 is the normal, Elijah. 12 is supposed to be your normal load. You're like, oh, it's easy. I'm like, of course it's easy. You're finally taking the normal level that a college kid would take. And all right. But you also took
yeah,
classes over the summer as well. So you've been trucking the whole way through here. This is not like you were not sitting on the beach all summer long, just letting the waves go by. You were grinding the whole time since you went down that early summer B program, and you've been going.
yeah. And it's, you know, for me, my motivation was, you know, I wanted at first it was, you know, I wanted to get through those gen eds. And I think um I did a mix of gen eds and AS classes a lot of the time at first. And then I started doing like mostly AS. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
now as of like last summer, or maybe like one semester before, I've been all AS classes. So all core classes, getting those out of the way. And for me, when I was taking 19 credits my freshman year while I was doing the fraternity and I was flying, after I was done with flying, it made it so easy because after I finished all my ratings, I was like, okay, and now I can just focus on school, you know? So, um,
19 credits.
mhm,
19.
mhm.
As I
That's
said,
what I took.
most first year students are 12, maybe 15, 19. You're oh, dude. I mean, kudos to you, man. And you've been just knocking it out of the park with your grades, and
Yeah.
you've been doing really well, and you've been keeping me updated, and your mother's been keeping me updated. But like, you're graduating a year early. You've just like I'm so impressed. Like you have come so far in a very short amount of time. So the graduation stage is going to be calling your name here fairly soon. What is life looking for you like after you graduate from Embry-Riddle? What's your goals?
Yeah. So once I'm graduated, right now I have a job pretty much lined up, working out of Green Bay as a flight instructor and flying trips and stuff. And so for now, I think that's what I'm going to focus on. Do a lot of that. I need 1,000 hours for
Yep.
my actual license, but I'm at 600 right now. So
Oh,
doing,
nice.
yeah, doing pretty well. And I'm going to be working for them. And then after that, I'm going to start, you know, when it comes time to in the next probably 5, 6 months, start applying to airlines, and just, you know, get that through. And end goal is airlines. But I still want to be involved in smaller general operations or general aviation operations. You know, it keeps you sharp, you know, flying,
Yeah,
you know, smaller stuff. And, you know, so no matter what happens, you know, airlines main goal, but I still want to, you know, do a lot of flying other than that too, as well. So
absolutely.
hopefully I'll be able to kind of have both types of jobs right now, but we'll see. We'll see, how everything turns out. But for now, directly after college, going to be instructing. So
Well, that's awesome. I mean,
yeah,
Green Bay is a great place to be an instructor. Of course, Appleton International also has its own flight school as well. So, like, you could be a little closer to home.
yeah,
And in my opinion, I like the Appleton Airport better than the Green Bay Airport. No one's ever heard of Appleton, but I think our airport's a little bit better than that place up in Green Bay. But that's my personal opinion. Um, I'm super excited for you. I mean, I've just been so impressed, and I've been so happy to kind of be tagging along on this journey and keeping up with you via text and watching what's going on via Instagram. So I'm wondering, this is a great time for you to share some words of wisdom for anyone who's just starting this process. So if you could like go back to your junior self, knowing what you know now, what would be advice that you would say to either your junior self or parents that have juniors in high school who are just about to get started on this whole college search and application process?
yeah. So to start off, it goes by so fast, and you know it can be really intimidating. You know, applying to college, especially if you might not know what you want to do. But I think it's important to set yourself up for success no matter what you do. You know, and meeting with Chuck is the first, you know, big step in that. You know, his job is to set you up for success. Um, and I think that keep an open mind um, with what you're doing. Just be open to anything because you never know where your journey is going to take you.
Hmm.
Have a goal, set the goal, and do whatever it takes for you to meet that goal. Whether it's a school that you really want to go to, whether it's something like in my instance, what I wanted to do, become a pilot. Um, just don't take no for an answer, like I kind of talked about a little bit before. You gotta knock down doors, and it doesn't stop in college. By the way, I still got to do that. Um, and do well. Do your best because your academics are gonna, is another step of setting you up for success. You have a lot more things that are open to you. Um, when you do well in academics. And then as far as parents go, uh, especially for my parents, they sent both their kids down to Florida. Uh, and it can be really, tough and different when your kids leave for school. Um, And kids, it's really important that you stay in contact with your parents when you leave. I sent my mom a blanket because she really missed me. But I'd say for parents, just be there for your kids as well. It's a very tough transition. It can be a very tough transition, and it's not
Hmm.
uncommon that it is, but it doesn't mean that it's not, worth it at all. And so,
Hmm.
you know, just help them out as much as they can, or as much as you really can. Be there for them. Would be my biggest thing with parents, and everything's just going to work. It's going to work out. Just keep trucking forward, keep going,
Yep.
and set a goal and don't look back. It's my
I, th-
biggest thing.
I think that's all awesome advice, and I'm glad that you shared that information because I say those things and people just think that it's my my spiel, and I'm like, no, it's good. It's good to hear one of my former students saying the same stuff that I'm saying.
You
So
know,
good,
it's
good.
it sounds so cliche, but it's so like true. And sometimes you don't see it until you go through it.
Yeah.
And it's just important to just listen to what is happening around you, and just do your best.
Hmm.
Put your best foot forward. So
Awesome advice, Elijah. And for clarification for those listening or watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast, your brother is not at the same university as you are. So you both decided to go to college inside the state of Florida, but you are actually on opposite sides of the state. So it's not like you chose to go to the same place. I want to put that out there so people are just like, oh, you both went to the same college. I'm like, no, you had two completely different college searches, completely different processes, and you ended up in two different complete parts of Florida. So
mhm.
just want to clarify that. But Elijah, as I said before, I'm super proud of you. You've done such a great job. You're really kicking butt. I'm excited that you are graduating a year early from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona, Florida. So I look forward to following your adventure and seeing what happens next. So thanks for being on the show. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excited to see what's to come.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for listening to Don't Chuck It Up. If today's episode was helpful, be sure to subscribe and share it with family navigating the college search. I'll be back next week with more guidance to help you make confident college decisions. Until then, don't chuck it up.